Salt-laden wind whistled through broken windows of the Mariners' Cove Aquarium as Ellie Mason stood before its weathered facade, one hand instinctively cradling her 7-month pregnant belly. The letter from her great-uncle's attorney felt impossibly heavy in her pocket, heavier than the meager $23 remaining in her bank account. Inheritance was too grand a word for this crumbling seaside relic, with its peeling paint and shattered dreams. Inside, murky tanks lined shadowy corridors, most emptied years ago. The place smelled of salt, rust, and forgotten promises. As sunset painted the dusty glass in amber hues, Ellie paused at the largest central tank, its clouded water mysteriously intact. Something moved within, a flicker of iridescent blue, unlike anything she'd seen in marine biology textbooks. What ancient secret lay hidden beneath those rippling waters, and why had her uncle's final letter warned her to guard it with her life? The pink slip of the eviction notice trembled in Ellie Mason's hands as she packed the meager contents of her apartment. 2 weeks. That's all the time she had left before she'd be officially homeless. She folded another maternity shirt into the cardboard box, labeled clothes, in faded marker and sighed, her hand instinctively moving to her swollen belly. "We'll figure something out," she whispered, though the confidence in her voice had worn thin over the past months. 3 years of studying marine biology at Coastal University, graduating with honors, and then interning at the Pacific Research Institute, all of it had seemed to be building towards something meaningful, until the 2 pink lines on a drugstore pregnancy test derailed everything. Ellie glanced at her phone. Marcus's contact still at the top of her recent calls, despite months of silence. His last text message remained unanswered. "I'm not ready for this. I never asked for it." Neither had she, but unlike Marcus, she couldn't simply walk away. She lifted a framed photo from her nightstand, herself in a wetsuit, beaming beside a dolphin pool, and wrapped it carefully in newspaper. That was before her morning sickness made working with the ocean's rocking motions impossible, before her research position coincidentally ended as her pregnancy became visible. The rent in Port Harbor had seemed reasonable when split between 2. Alone, it was impossible on her dwindling savings and the occasional freelance articles she wrote for marine conservation blogs. 74 job applications later, nobody seemed eager to hire a woman who'd need maternity leave in 2 months. Ellie sat heavily on her second-hand sofa, unopened mail scattered on the coffee table. Bills, medical notices, and then the curious envelope with the law office letterhead that had arrived yesterday. Pearson and Phillips, attorneys at law, a firm from the coastal town 50 miles north. She hadn't opened it yet, assuming it was another collection notice for her mounting student loans. With nothing left to lose, she tore it open. "Dear Miss Mason, we regret to inform you of the passing of your great-uncle, Edward Blackwell." She'd met Uncle Edward perhaps 3 times in her life. A reclusive man with wild white hair and perpetually salt-stained clothes, who smelled of the sea and spoke little. Her mother had called him eccentric. Her father had used less charitable terms. Their family's black sheep, who'd abandoned a promising career in marine science to run a small aquarium in a forgotten tourist town, has bequeathed to you his property, known as Mariners' Cove Aquarium, including all structures, equipment, and contents therein. Ellie read the paragraph 3 times, certain she'd misunderstood. She had inherited an aquarium. The letter continued with legal jargon about probate being completed and the deed ready for transfer. A handwritten note had been paperclipped to the formal letter. "He insisted it go to you, Miss Mason, said you'd understand its importance someday. Though I should warn you, the place hasn't been operational for years. Taxes are paid through December. Call my office when you're ready to sign the papers. Phillips." She scrambled for her laptop, typing Mariners' Cove Aquarium into the search bar. The results were sparse. A few ancient Yelp reviews complaining about limited exhibits, blurry images of a weathered building perched on rocky shores, and a local news article from 5 years ago mentioning its closure due to code violations and declining tourism. In the photos, the aquarium looked more like a fortress than an attraction, with thick stone walls protecting it from the punishing coastal weather. Nothing about it suggested value, yet it was now apparently hers. That evening, Ellie drove her 20-year-old Honda along the coastal highway, following the GPS coordinates from the law firm's letter. The sun was setting as she rounded the final curve, casting long shadows across the jagged shoreline. There it stood on a rocky promontory, Mariner's Cove Aquarium, more imposing and dilapidated than the photos had suggested. Wind-battered signs hung precariously, faded murals of sea creatures peeled from the exterior walls, and several windows were boarded with weathered plywood. As she parked in the empty lot, an old fisherman loading gear into his truck gave her a curious look. "You lost, miss." "I'm looking for Mariner's Cove." The man's weathered face creased with suspicion. "Old Edward's place? Nobody goes there anymore." "I'm his great-niece," she said, the relation still strange on her tongue. "Ah." His expression softened slightly. "He was an odd one, your uncle. Brilliant, some say, but odd. Used to tell folks the sea had secrets worth protecting." He glanced at her pregnant belly. "You planning to stay long?" Ellie looked at the looming structure, the crashing waves beyond it, and the eviction notice tucked in her purse. "I might have to." Morning light filtered through broken blinds as Ellie awoke on a musty couch in what appeared to be her great-uncle's office. After a restless night, her back ached in protest. The caretaker's quarters, she'd discovered, a small apartment attached to the main building, needed serious cleaning before she could properly sleep there. Ellie stretched and surveyed the cluttered room. Papers covered every surface, some yellowed with age, others seemingly fresh. Taxonomic diagrams of unusual marine specimens lined the walls alongside navigation charts marked with cryptic symbols and coordinates. She picked up a leather-bound journal from the desk, its pages water-stained and filled with her uncle's cramped handwriting. Dates stretched back decades. Meticulous entries documenting water conditions, feeding schedules, and observations written in a mix of scientific terminology and what appeared to be personal code. April 17th. Subject displaying increased luminescence following mineral supplement addition. Response to musical stimuli continues to evolve. Mozart elicits stronger patterns than Bach. The discovery continues to defy conventional classification. What discovery? Ellie flipped through more pages, finding detailed sketches of something that resembled a cross between a cuttlefish and a manta ray, but with anatomical features she'd never encountered in her studies. A knock startled her. She opened the door to find a middle-aged man with sun-weathered skin and calloused hands. "Morning." "Sam Miller," he said, extending his hand. "I kept an eye on things for your uncle. Heard you'd arrived." "News travels fast," Ellie said, shaking his hand. Sam shrugged. "Small town. Edward was good to me. Paid me to check the generators, make sure pipes didn't freeze in winter. Basic maintenance. Generators? This place has been closed for years. Some systems never shut down," Sam said, his expression carefully neutral. "Your uncle was particular about that. Want me to show you around?" The tour revealed the aquarium's contradictions. Most areas showed years of neglect. Empty tanks with crusty salt residue, cracked viewing windows, outdated exhibits covered in dust. Yet certain sections, particularly around the central tank system, contained surprisingly modern equipment. "Uncle Edward kept this running all this time?" Ellie asked, examining a sophisticated filtration system. "Never missed a payment," Sam confirmed. "Said it was essential." As they walked, Ellie's mind drifted to her childhood. The rare occasions when great-uncle Edward visited. She'd been 7 when he'd arrived for Thanksgiving dinner, bringing her a small jar of multicolored sea glass instead of the usual toys other relatives gave. The ocean's treasures, he told her, are never what they first appear. Her parents had exchanged knowing glances. She remembered his intensity when he'd discovered her. Childhood fascination with marine life, how he'd sent her books about ocean ecosystems while other girls received dolls. The sudden inheritance made slightly more sense now, though countless questions remained. In a back storage room, Ellie discovered decades of maintenance records, meticulously organized by date. While most sections of the aquarium had minimal documentation, one specific tank system, labeled only as CC Primary, had detailed daily logs and equipment upgrades, despite the facility's overall decay. "What was in the central tank?" she asked Sam as they circled back to the main exhibition hall. He hesitated. "Edward never showed me. Said some things weren't meant to be gawked at. The central tank itself was massive, 30 feet across, and extending from floor to ceiling through 2 levels. Unlike the other exhibits, its water remained murky and dark. Specialized lights were positioned at odd angles, currently powered down. The glass was surprisingly clean compared to everything else. "This whole place seems built around this tank," Ellie observed. "Pretty much," Sam agreed. "Edward designed it himself. Engineering marvel considering when it was built." As the afternoon progressed, Ellie ventured into town for supplies. Port Harbor was small, but not unwelcoming. A working fishing community with a modest tourist trade. At the local market, curious glances followed her until a well-dressed older man approached. "Miss Blackwell, I presume. Or is it Mason?" he asked. "Mason, Ellie Mason." Mayor Richard Whitcomb. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Welcome to Port Harbor. Surprised to see Edward's place occupied again." "Just sorting things out," she said cautiously. Of course. If you're looking to sell that old property, the town might be interested. Perfect location for redevelopment. Luxury condos would revitalize our economy." "I'm not selling yet," Ellie replied, noting how his smile tightened. "Still figuring things out." "Naturally," he said, "but that building has been an eyesore for years. Between us, it's practically worthless except for the land it sits on." As Ellie drove back to the aquarium, the mayor's words echoed in her mind. If the property was truly worthless, why was he so interested? And why had her eccentric uncle maintained it until his death? Ellie ran her fingers over the dusty ledger, squinting at the meticulous entries. Every month for 15 years, her uncle had documented equipment upgrades to the central tank system, specialized filters imported from Japan, custom lighting arrays, water chemistry modulators that cost more than her entire college education. The most recent entry was dated just 3 weeks before his death. "This doesn't make sense," she murmured, calculating the expenses. The maintenance costs alone would bankrupt most commercial aquariums. She'd spent the day exploring the facility's mechanical rooms, finding sophisticated systems concealed behind ordinary walls. The central tank had its own dedicated power supply, water treatment facility, and even a separate security system, all carefully hidden from casual observation. Her phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Dr. Perez, 2 p.m. Her prenatal appointment. She'd almost forgotten. At the small medical clinic in town, Dr. Perez reviewed her charts with a frown. "Your blood pressure's still elevated," she said, "and the baby's a bit small for gestational age. Have you been taking the supplements I prescribed?" "Yes," Ellie lied. The prescription had been too expensive to fill. "Any unusual stress?" Ellie laughed weakly. "Just eviction, unemployment, and inheriting a mysterious abandoned aquarium." Dr. Perez's eyes widened. "You're Edward Blackwell's relative?" "His great-niece. Did you know him?" Everyone knew Edward. She hesitated. "He was unique, brilliant but secretive. He consulted occasionally at the hospital on unusual cases." She closed Ellie's chart. "The aquarium's been closed for years. What will you do with it?" "I don't know yet. It needs work, but it's a roof over your head," Dr. Perez finished knowingly. "Just be careful there. Some buildings develop mold issues when left empty. Not good for pregnancy." Back at the aquarium, Ellie found a silver-haired man peering through the windows. He straightened when he saw her. "Eleonora Mason." His voice carried the precise diction of academia. "I'm Dr. James Rivera. I worked with your uncle at the university before he changed careers." "It's just Ellie," she said, shaking his hand. "You knew Uncle Edward well." "As well as anyone could." His eyes darted toward the building. "May I come in? For old time's sake?" Inside, Dr. Rivera moved with the familiarity of someone who'd visited often, heading directly toward the main exhibition hall. He stopped at the central tank, staring at its murky depths with an unreadable expression. "Still here," he murmured almost to himself. "What is?" Ellie asked. He turned, seeming startled to find her beside him. "The memories. Edward and I collaborated on several research projects. Groundbreaking work on bioluminescent organisms and their potential medical applications. Is that what's in this tank? Some kind of research specimen?" Edward always kept his most important work private. Rivera's voice was carefully controlled. "We had disagreements about methodologies, scientific ethics. He believed some discoveries should remain natural rather than commercialized." As Rivera wandered the facility, Ellie noticed his interest in the equipment, noting model numbers, examining controls. His casual questions felt calculated, especially regarding access to her uncle's research materials. "Did you never visit?" after he closed to the public. She asked. "Edward became increasingly reclusive in his later years," Rivera said, his gaze lingering on the tank. "Paranoid, some might say. After he left, promising to return with memories to share, Ellie felt uneasy. His interest seemed less about nostalgia and more about assessment. That evening, while sorting through more of her uncle's papers, Ellie discovered bizarre electrical modifications throughout the building. Hidden wiring connected the central tank to various monitoring stations. Some appeared to be sensors, others resembled communication equipment she couldn't identify. Her phone rang with an unknown number. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice, digitally altered. "The inheritance is not what it seems. You should leave while you still can." Who is this? Edward made enemies protecting what he found. They've waited years for his death. They won't wait much longer. The line went dead. Ellie's hand trembled as she set down the phone. Outside, darkness had fallen. Through the office window, she could see the main hall where moonlight filtered through skylights, illuminating the central tank. For a moment, she thought she saw a faint blue glow pulsing within the murky water. As Ellie approached the tank, the glow faded. She placed her palm against the cool glass, feeling the subtle vibration of running equipment. "What were you hiding, Uncle Edward?" she whispered. The tank remained dark, its secrets held within walls of glass and water, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The coastal storm hit without warning, lashing the aquarium with wind and rain. Ellie huddled in the caretaker's quarters she'd managed to clean, listening to the building creak and moan against nature's assault. Then with a decisive click, the power went out. Darkness enveloped her, broken only by occasional flashes of lightning through rain-streaked windows. She fumbled for her phone flashlight and ventured into the main building, concerned about equipment dependent on electricity. The quiet hum she'd grown accustomed to had been replaced by an eerie silence. But as she approached the central exhibition hall, a new sound emerged, a deep mechanical whirring. In the main hall, emergency lights had activated around the central tank, casting an amber glow across the floor. The backup generators had engaged, but strangely, they powered only this section of the building. Everything else remained dark. "Prioritized power supply," she murmured, recalling notations in the maintenance records. A flash of movement caught her eye. Inside the murky tank, something shifted, a graceful undulation followed by a pulse of blue-green light that briefly illuminated the water from within. Ellie froze, her flashlight beam trembling on the glass. Another pulse, brighter this time. The light didn't disperse like bioluminescent algae. It formed distinct patterns that rippled and morphed with apparent purpose. She stepped closer, mesmerized. The patterns intensified, coalescing into a vaguely spiral shape that tracked her movement along the glass. "Hello?" she whispered, feeling foolish but unable to help herself. The luminescence flared, shifting from blue-green to a deep indigo that reflected off the ceiling and walls. Within the murky water, she glimpsed a form unlike anything in her marine biology textbooks. Translucent tissue, arranged in elegant, flowing structures that seemed to defy conventional anatomy. Not a fish, not a cephalopod, yet somehow incorporating elements of both and more. The creature, if that's what it was, propelled itself toward her with surprising grace for its size. which she now estimated at roughly 6 feet in length. It pressed against the glass where her hand rested, its luminescence concentrated at the point of near contact. "What are you?" Ellie breathed. As if in response, the being's lights pulsed in a rhythm that reminded her of Morse code. Though the patterns were far more complex, the radio on her hip crackled, the emergency channel Sam had given her. His voice came through in broken segments. "Ellie, backup systems, check. Central controls." She keyed the transmitter. "Sam, there's something alive in the central tank. Something big." Static answered her. Lightning illuminated the hall in stark contrast, and in that flash, Ellie noticed a metal cabinet she'd overlooked before, partially hidden behind decorative coral. Its modern keypad lock seemed out of place among the aquarium's aging infrastructure. The combination came to her suddenly, the recurring numbers in her uncle's journal 1117 to 63. With trembling fingers, she entered the sequence. The cabinet opened with a soft click. Inside, she found dozens of labeled containers, scientific equipment, and a handwritten formula book. The top shelf held vials of multicolored liquids, alongside bags of what appeared to be specialized feed. Each label contained meticulous instructions and a warning. Formula 37B, specialized nutrition. Administer only per schedule. Incorrect dosage may cause behavioral changes. Ellie carefully removed the book, flipping through pages of detailed feeding instructions. Unlike standard aquarium protocols, these described complex mixtures of minerals, proteins, and compounds she didn't recognize. Margin notes documented behavioral responses to various formulations, some successful, others marked with urgent warnings. Never administer Formula 22 again. Subject displayed extreme distress. Luminescence erratic for 72 hours following. The generator sputtered momentarily, emergency lights flickering. Behind her, the creature's bioluminescence intensified, casting the room in ethereal blue light. Ellie turned to find it pressed against the glass, its patterns changing rapidly. She recognized fear when she saw it, even in a species she couldn't identify. "It's okay," she said softly. "The power will stabilize." As if understanding, the creature's frantic movements calmed. It maintained position near her, lights pulsing in slower, more regular patterns. The radio crackled again.
"Ellie!"
Sam's voice came through clearly this time. "Don't go near the central tank during power fluctuations. The containment systems." The rest was lost as the emergency lights suddenly brightened, then stabilized. The generator's pitch deepened as it settled into a steady rhythm. In the newly strengthened light, Ellie could see what she'd missed before. A network of underwater cameras positioned throughout the tank, all focused on the creature. The being wasn't just being kept. It was being studied, continuously, for years. On the wall beside the cabinet, a previously dark monitor flickered to life, displaying readouts of water chemistry, temperature, and other parameters she recognized from her marine biology training. But one section labeled neural activity showed patterns unlike any aquatic life she'd studied. When she looked back at the tank, the creature had moved closer to the glass. In the improved lighting, she could see its features more clearly. Translucent tissues revealing complex internal structures. Sensory appendages arranged in symmetrical patterns. And at its center, something that pulsed rhythmically like a heart, but glowed like a star. The crash of breaking glass jolted Ellie awake. She'd fallen asleep at her uncle's desk, his journal spread before her. Darkness pressed against the windows, 3:17 a.m. according to her phone. Another sound echoed through the building, footsteps purposeful and quick. Someone was inside the aquarium. She silenced her phone and eased open the office door. Flashlight beams swept across the main hall, illuminating 3 figures in dark clothing, moving with practiced efficiency. One headed toward her uncle's research area, while 2 approached the central tank, timers running. 15 minutes, max, a male voice whispered. Where would the old man keep it? Another responded, check the office. The rest is worthless without the research. Ellie retreated, frantically searching for a hiding place or weapon. The office had only one exit, and they were heading straight for it. Her gaze fell on a floor vent large enough to crawl through. She pulled it free and squeezed her pregnant body into the dusty passage just as the door opened. Flashlight beams swept across the room she'd vacated seconds earlier. Through the slats, she watched black-gloved hands rifle through her uncle's papers, methodically checking each drawer and shelf. "Nothing here but old journals," the intruder muttered into what appeared to be a communication device. No sign of the classified files. From her hiding place, Ellie could see into the main hall, where the central tank now pulsed with intense blue light. The creature was agitated, its bioluminescence flashing in erratic patterns as the intruders circled its enclosure. Photographing it from various angles, subject appears responsive to external stimuli, one said clinically. Bioluminescent activity indicates heightened stress response. "Wrap it up," came the reply. "We got what we needed. The woman doesn't have clearance anyway. Once Shaw acquires the property, we'll have full access." The name struck a chord of recognition. Shaw Pharmaceuticals. She'd seen their advertisements for breakthrough drugs derived from marine organisms. A sudden pounding at the aquarium's main entrance interrupted the intruders. Sam's voice carried through the building. "Ellie!" Security system tripped. "You okay in there?" The intruders exchanged looks of alarm. "Abort!" one hissed. They gathered their equipment with practiced speed and disappeared toward a service exit. Ellie waited until their footsteps faded before scrambling from her hiding place. She rushed to the door, hands trembling as she unlocked it for Sam. "Someone broke in!" she gasped. Sam's expression hardened as he surveyed the disheveled office. "Military-grade operation," he muttered, examining a small device the intruders had dropped in their haste, some type of specialized scanner. "Not random thieves. They mentioned classified files," Ellie said. "And someone named Shaw." Sam's face darkened. "Donovan Shaw, pharmaceutical magnate with government contracts." He hesitated. "Your uncle refused to work with him, despite considerable financial incentives. They were looking for research." "About that," she pointed toward the central tank, where the creature's agitated bioluminescence was gradually calming. "You've seen it," Sam said. "Not a question. What is it?" "Even your uncle wasn't entirely sure." Sam secured the building methodically, checking each entrance. "But it's why this place has better security than most banks." He pointed to nearly invisible sensors along the walls. "The silent alarm connected directly to my phone. Edward's precaution." As dawn approached, they found a hidden wall safe behind a tank schematic poster in the office. Unlike the feeding cabinet, this had a digital lock requiring both a code and fingerprint. "He never shared the combination," Sam said. "Said it was safer if only he knew." Ellie studied the keypad, remembering her uncle's journals. Unlike the cabinet code, which appeared repeatedly, one sequence appeared only once, circled emphatically. 7-19-52-16-8. My birthday, she realized. July 19th, and my birth weight 5 pounds 2 ounces. Worth a try, Sam said. The safe beeped in rejection. Wait, Ellie reconsidered. He wouldn't use the day and month separately. She tried again. 7-19-52-16-8. Nothing. The fingerprint, she said suddenly. He knew I'd inherit this place someday. What if... She pressed her thumb against the scanner. The safe clicked open. Inside lay a sealed, waterproof container holding government documents marked Classified. The cover page read, Operation Neptune's Deep, Pacific Anomaly Recovery, 1993. Many sections were heavily redacted, but photos showed a naval vessel with specialized deep-sea equipment. Her uncle appeared in several images, decades younger but unmistakable, standing alongside uniformed officers. A handwritten note addressed to her was paper-clipped to the file. Ellie, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and they have come looking. Trust no one who seeks to exploit rather than protect. The being chose to stay. Remember that. It was never our prisoner, but our responsibility. Now it's yours. The water holds the key. Uncle Edward. Morning sunlight streamed through the aquarium's skylights as Ellie stood before the central tank, her uncle's feeding formula freshly prepared according to his meticulous instructions. The creature approached cautiously, its translucent tissues refracting light in rainbow patterns beneath its luminescent glow. "I'm not sure if you can understand me," she said softly, "but I'm Edward's niece. I'm going to take care of you now." The being's movements changed, becoming more fluid, almost graceful. Its bioluminescence shifted to a gentle blue-green as it followed her hand along the glass. Ellie carefully measured the nutrition mixture into the automated feeding system, noting how the creature oriented itself toward the delivery tube with apparent anticipation. As the formula dispersed into the water, the being enveloped the particles with delicate tendrils, absorbing rather than consuming in any conventional sense. While cleaning up, Ellie sliced her palm on a broken beaker. Blood welled from the cut, surprisingly deep and painful. She cursed, searching for a first aid kit, but found only an unmarked cabinet containing vials of processed water from the central tank. Each bore her uncle's handwriting, Healing Waters Sample, Batch 37. Curious and desperate, she uncapped one vial and poured a few drops onto her wounded hand. The liquid felt unusually warm, tingling against her skin. The bleeding slowed immediately. By afternoon, the cut had nearly closed. Far faster than any natural healing process, the significance wasn't lost on her. She carefully returned the remaining vial to its place, mind racing with possibilities and implications. The meeting with Attorney Phillips later that day only deepened the mystery. The elderly lawyer welcomed her into his wood-paneled office, offering tea as he retrieved her uncle's file. "Your great-uncle was quite adamant about the inheritance," Phillips said, adjusting his spectacles. "Changed his will 5 times to ensure there were no loopholes." "Did he say why?" "Edward was selective with his explanations." Phillips hesitated. "Though he did mention you shared his affinity for marine biology. The aquarium needs extensive renovation to reopen," Ellie ventured. "In its current state, yes. I should mention there have been numerous offers for the property over the years. Most recently, Donovan Shaw offered $5 million. Phillips studied her reaction. "Your uncle refused without hesitation. $5 million. Ellie nearly dropped her teacup. The figure would solve every financial problem she faced, with plenty left for her child's future. Shaw was quite persistent. Increased his offer annually. Phillips slid a business card across his desk. "He asked me to pass this along, should you ever inherit." The card read simply, Donovan Shaw, CEO, Shaw Pharmaceuticals, with a direct number. "Do you know what he wanted with a dilapidated aquarium?" "Location, presumably. Prime coastal property." Phillips's expression suggested he knew more than he was saying. Edward believed some things were worth more than money. As Ellie drove back to the aquarium, she pondered what could possibly be worth turning down $5 million. The healing water sample seemed significant, but was it truly that valuable? She found Sam inspecting the generators, his weathered hands moving with practiced efficiency among the machinery. "The systems are holding," he reported, "but some components are nearing end of life. How much would replacements cost?" "More than you've got, I'd wager." Sam wiped grease from his hands. "I've been maintaining these on Edward's dime for years, without asking questions. Figured he had his reasons. You never wondered what was so important?" Sam's gaze shifted toward the central tank. "Everyone has secrets worth protecting, including you?" Ellie asked carefully. His smile was sad. "I worked naval special projects before becoming a handyman. Edward hired me after recognizing my name from classified reports. Said he needed someone who understood discretion." The revelation cast their previous interactions in a new light. "The intruders mentioned I don't have clearance," Ellie said. "What did they mean?" "Your uncle operated under a special arrangement with certain government divisions. They provided equipment. He provided research access, but maintained custody." Sam hesitated. "The arrangement became complicated when he refused commercial applications." That evening, Ellie experimented with a small sample of the tank water, examining it under a microscope she found in her uncle's lab. The liquid contained microscopic structures unlike anything in scientific literature, cellular components that seemed to shift and adapt even as she observed. A knock at the aquarium's entrance interrupted her research. Through the security monitor, she saw an impeccably dressed man with silver hair and a confident posture. "Miss Mason," he called. "Donovan Shaw. I believe we have matters of mutual interest to discuss." Behind her, the creature's bioluminescence pulsed in what she was beginning to recognize as a warning pattern. Rapid flashes of indigo against deep blue. Whether responding to the visitor or her own anxiety, Ellie couldn't tell, but the message seemed clear. Danger had arrived on her doorstep, wearing an expensive suit and an offer that could solve all her problems. If she was willing to betray her uncle's trust and surrender whatever secret the aquarium protected, Donovan Shaw moved through the aquarium with the confidence of a man, accustomed to owning whatever space he occupied. His tailored suit seemed immune to the building's persistent dampness. His polished shoes incongruous against the worn floors. Remarkable preservation of the central systems, he noted, eyes lingering on the tank where the creature had retreated into murky depths, its bioluminescence dimmed to near invisibility. "Your uncle was nothing if not meticulous. You knew him well?" Ellie asked, keeping her distance. "We had a professional relationship." Shaw's smile never reached his eyes. "Edward had unique insights into marine biochemistry. I offered to help develop his discoveries into life-saving medications. He declined out of principle?" "Out of stubbornness," Shaw countered. "Individual idealism shouldn't outweigh public benefit." His practiced charm felt like a veneer over something colder, more calculating. As they walked, he subtly assessed equipment, infrastructure, and security measures. "My offer remains open," he said finally. $5 million. You could start fresh, provide for your child's future." His gaze dropped briefly to her pregnant belly. "This building is a liability, Ms. Mason. The maintenance costs alone will bankrupt you within months." "I'm still evaluating my options." Ellie replied carefully. "Of course." Shaw handed her a business card identical to the one Phillips had provided. "But don't evaluate too long. Circumstances change. Property values fluctuate." The gentle threat hung in the air between them. After he left, Ellie drove to the Port Harbor Library, seeking perspective beyond her uncle's cryptic notes. The elderly librarian brightened when Ellie mentioned Mariner's Cove, Edward Blackwell's place. "I have something you should see." She disappeared into the archives, returning with bound volumes of local newspapers. "These go back decades. Your uncle's aquarium made quite a splash when it first opened." The headline from May 1994 read, "Mysterious Aquarium Opens. Locals report health benefits." Accompanying photos showed crowds gathered outside Mariner's Cove, many appearing elderly or infirm. The article described unprecedented recovery cases in patients who visited regularly. One woman's lupus symptoms reportedly disappeared. A fisherman's chronic pain subsided. A child's severe asthma improved dramatically. Medical professionals called it suggestive of placebo effect. While town officials embraced the tourism boost, later articles chronicled the phenomenon's decline as the aquarium gradually restricted public access, eventually closing entirely except for special therapeutic sessions by appointment only. "People used to swear by the healing properties of that place," the librarian said. "My own arthritis improved after weekly visits. Then one day, Edward just closed the public exhibitions, said it was for conservation purposes. Did anyone question the timing? There were rumors about government men in suits." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Some said he found something in the deep ocean that could cure anything. Others thought he was conducting experiments. Edward never confirmed nor denied." Ellie photographed the articles with her phone, thanking the librarian for her help. As she stood to leave, a wave of dizziness washed over her, forcing her to grip the table for support. "Are you all right, dear?" the librarian asked, concerned. "Just pregnancy stuff," Ellie managed, though the sensation felt different from her usual spells. Sharper, more insistent, Dr. Perez squeezed her in for an emergency appointment that afternoon. Her expression grew serious as she reviewed the monitor displaying Ellie's vitals. Your blood pressure's dangerously elevated, and there are proteins in your urine. Classic signs of preeclampsia. She adjusted her glasses. I'm concerned about placental insufficiency. The baby's heart rate shows distress patterns. What does that mean? Ellie asked, fear tightening her chest. It means hospital admission, possibly induced early delivery if things worsen. Dr. Perez wrote orders on her chart. I want you admitted today. I can't, Ellie protested. The aquarium, I need to maintain the systems. Ellie, this is life-threatening. For both you and the baby, reluctantly. Ellie agreed to return the next morning for admission, using the intervening time to arrange for Sam to oversee the aquarium's critical systems. That evening, exhausted and frightened, she sat beside the central tank, one hand resting on the glass while the other cradled her belly. The creature emerged from hiding, approaching with unusual directness. Its luminescence shifted to a gentle pulsing lavender as it pressed against the glass near her hand. I might have to go away for a while, she told it softly. I don't know what happens to you if... The being's lights formed patterns she hadn't seen before, concentric circles that expanded and contracted rhythmically. Somehow, the display eased her growing headache, the pain receding like tide from shore. On impulse, Ellie retrieved one of the healing water's vials, consuming a small amount. The liquid tasted of salt and something indefinable, not unpleasant, but distinctly otherworldly. Warmth spread through her body, settling particularly around her womb. By morning, she felt markedly improved. Dr. Perez's confused expression as she reviewed the new test results mirrored Ellie's own astonishment. Your numbers are normalized, the doctor said, rechecking the results. Blood pressure, protein levels, even the baby's heart rate, all within healthy parameters. I've never seen preeclampsia reverse so rapidly. Does that mean I don't need hospitalization? I'd still like to monitor you closely, Dr. Perez said cautiously. These conditions can fluctuate. But for now, she shook her head in bewilderment. It's remarkable. Returning to the aquarium, Ellie found the creature waiting near the glass, its bioluminescence brighter than ever before. As she approached, it formed the same circular pattern she'd seen the previous night. Was that you? She whispered. Did you know I was sick? The patterns shifted, forming what appeared to be a double helix, the unmistakable structure of DNA. The basement level of the aquarium had remained locked until Ellie discovered the key hidden inside an old diving helmet display. The heavy door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing a space that defied her expectations. Unlike the neglected upper floors, this area hummed with active, sophisticated equipment. Banks of monitors displayed real-time data, while sonar imaging systems mapped what appeared to be underwater tunnels, extending from beneath the aquarium into the deep ocean beyond. A digital counter in the corner showed an active connection time of 8,734 days, nearly 24 years of continuous operation. Your uncle never mentioned this room, Sam asked, examining the equipment with professional interest. Never. Ellie studied the tunnel maps with growing astonishment. These connect directly to the central tank and to the open ocean. Sam pointed to depth measurements. These extend miles offshore, reaching the continental shelf edge. The implications settled over them in silence. The creature wasn't contained. It had access to open water. It could leave at any time. It chooses to stay, Ellie said, remembering her uncle's note. Sam nodded grimly. Which raises the question, why? Their exploration was interrupted by a security alert on Sam's phone. The perimeter cameras showed men in environmental protection gear taking water samples from the shoreline directly below the aquarium. Shore Pharmaceuticals, Sam identified, zooming in on their vehicle logo. Testing runoff from the building. Is that legal? Public beach access makes it a grey area. They're searching for traces of whatever's in the central tank. Sam's expression darkened. Edward anticipated this. It's why he installed specialized filtration systems for all outgoing water. You seem to know an awful lot about the security measures for a handyman, Ellie observed. Sam's silence stretched before he finally sighed. I wasn't completely honest about my background. I'm not just ex-Navy. He showed her an identification card. Environmental Protection Agency, Special Resources Division. I've been monitoring this situation for 15 years. Ellie stepped back. You've been spying on my uncle? Protecting his work, Sam corrected, and the being under his care. Your uncle made a deal with certain government divisions. He maintained custody of the specimen, provided research data, and we ensured corporate interests couldn't exploit it. And now you've inherited not just an aquarium, but a decades-long classified arrangement. Sam gestured at the monitoring equipment. Edward trusted you with this responsibility. My assignment is to help you fulfill it. The revelation left Ellie reeling. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Needed to be sure of your intentions. Sam's gaze was steady. There are factions within the government that disagree with this arrangement. Some believe the specimen should be relocated to a military research facility. Others, like my division, respect your uncle's approach, studying the being while respecting its apparent sentience. A notification flashed across the main monitor. Warning, vitals fluctuation. The screen displayed real-time metrics from the central tank, indicating elevated stress markers in the creature. They rushed upstairs to find the being swimming in agitated patterns, its bioluminescence flickering between warning colors. Near the main entrance, Mayor Whitcomb stood with 2 uniformed police officers and a woman in a business suit. Ms. Mason, the mayor called with manufactured concern. We've received reports of code violations that require immediate inspection. This is private property, Ellie responded. You need an appointment. The woman stepped forward, extending official-looking documents. Jessica Harlow, Port Harbor Building Department. We have authority to inspect any commercial structure with suspected hazardous conditions. The aquarium isn't operational, Sam interjected. Yet someone's clearly living on premises, Harlow noted, eyeing Ellie's makeshift living arrangements. In a non-residential zoned building without occupancy certification. The true purpose behind their visit was transparent, a legally dubious pretense to access the facility and its secrets. I'll need to consult my attorney. Ellie stalled. Of course, Mayor Whitcomb smiled thinly. We'll return tomorrow with the proper warrants. In the meantime, consider this notice of potential condemnation proceedings. The town has concerns about structural integrity and public safety. After they departed, Sam made urgent phone calls to his agency contacts while Ellie checked on the creature. Its agitation had diminished, but its movements remained unsettled. It knew they were coming, she realized. It sensed the threat. That evening, Ellie experienced the worst migraine of her life, collapsing near the central tank as pain lanced through her head. Through blurred vision, she saw the creature press against the glass, its bioluminescence pulsing urgently. When Sam found her hours later, she was sleeping peacefully on the floor beside the tank, the migraine completely gone. The monitoring system showed unusual activity. The creature had maintained direct proximity to her position the entire time, emitting specific light patterns that the sensors categorized as previously unrecorded. It helped you again, Sam observed, helping her to her feet. It's getting stronger, Ellie said, noticing changes in the being's appearance, its tissues more defined, its movements more purposeful, or evolving. The sonar equipment in the basement beeped with an incoming transmission. On the screen, a new tunnel had appeared, freshly created and extending beneath the town itself, following the path of underground freshwater springs that supplied the local water system. It's not just staying, Sam said quietly. It's expanding its reach. The stone tablets lay carefully arranged in a hidden display case Ellie discovered behind a false wall in her uncle's office. Ancient carvings depicted a luminous being emerging from ocean depths to heal tribal members. The indigenous art style was unmistakable, clearly local to the Pacific Northwest coast. Yet unlike any artifacts she'd seen in museums, these were hidden for a reason, said Eleanor Whitefeather. The tribal elder Sam had reluctantly connected her with. The elderly woman's fingers traced the carvings with reverence. Your uncle sought my grandmother's wisdom when he first brought the guardian to these shores. Guardian. What our people called it. Eleanor's eyes held ancient wisdom. The luminous one, the healing spirit of deep waters. Stories tell of its appearance during times of great sickness or need. These look hundreds of years old, Ellie observed, because the Guardian has visited many times throughout our history. Eleanor indicated different tablets showing the same glowing entity in various eras. It doesn't age as we do. It comes when called by sufficient need, then returns to the deep. But this time it stayed. Perhaps its work isn't finished. Eleanor studied Ellie thoughtfully. Or perhaps it found something worth staying for. Their conversation was interrupted by Ellie's phone, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Important. About the baby. Marcus, her ex-boyfriend's sudden reappearance after months of silence, seemed suspiciously timed. Nevertheless, she agreed to meet him at a public cafe in town. Marcus looked the same, handsome in that carefully cultivated way, his casual outfit probably costing more than her monthly rent. His easy smile faltered when he saw how advanced her pregnancy had become. You look, he searched for words. Pregnant, she finished flatly. I was going to say, well, he fidgeted with his coffee cup. I heard about your uncle. And the inheritance, of course. The timing made sense now. I handled things badly, Marcus continued. I was scared, immature, but I've been thinking about reconciliation, or my recently acquired oceanfront property. His expression confirmed her suspicion. Word travels in biotech circles, he admitted. Shaw Pharmaceuticals is making noise about revolutionary compounds from marine sources. Rumor connects it to your uncle's research. At least he was honest about his motivations. My uncle's work isn't for sale. Ellie, be reasonable. You're about to be a single mother with no income. Whatever Edward discovered could benefit humanity while securing your future. Our future. Our future. She nearly laughed. You lost the right to our anything when you walked out. As she stood to leave, dizziness struck again, worse than before. Marcus caught her arm as she swayed. You need medical attention, he insisted. Let me drive you. At the clinic, Dr. Perez frowned at the test results. The preeclampsia indicators are returning, she said. Not as severe as before, but concerning. Have you changed your diet or medication recently? Ellie thought about the healing water she'd been consuming daily since discovering its effects. After leaving the aquarium for her meeting with Marcus, she'd gone nearly 8 hours without it, the longest period since beginning the regimen. Sort of, she admitted vaguely. Whatever you're doing at the aquarium seems to help, Dr. Perez said, reviewing Ellie's improved vitals from previous visits. Your condition stabilizes while you're there, then deteriorates when you're away for extended periods. On the drive back, Marcus was solicitous, offering support she didn't want from hands she no longer trusted. She directed him to drop her at the aquarium entrance. At least let me come in, he insisted. See what all the fuss is about. Another time, she deflected, knowing she'd never extend the invitation. Once inside, Ellie hurried to the central tank. The creature approached immediately, its bioluminescence forming patterns that mirrored her own distress. She took a small dose of the healing water, feeling relief spread through her system within minutes. You're helping me somehow, she whispered to the being, keeping me alive, keeping the baby healthy. The creature's lights shifted, forming recognizable shapes, simple letters that arranged and rearranged until they spelled Y-E-S. Ellie staggered back, disbelieving. The pattern repeated deliberately, unmistakable in its intent. Y-E-S. You understand me, she breathed. You're communicating. The luminescence pulsed in what could only be affirmation. How, she asked. Why me? The creature paused, then formed new patterns, more complex but still recognizable. DNA, C-O-N-N-E-C-T-E-D. A chill ran down Ellie's spine. Connected to what? The being approached the glass separating them, pressing against it where her hand rested. Its luminescence concentrated at the point of near contact, forming one more word. Y-O-U. The security system chimed, alerting her to visitors. On the monitor, she watched Sam escorting Dr. Rivera toward the main entrance, their expressions grave. Whatever their purpose, it would have to wait. She just made first contact with an intelligent species that claimed a connection to her DNA, a revelation that changed everything about her inheritance and her future. As she moved to greet them, the creature's lights formed a final pattern. Behind her, a sequence that matched the strange markers Dr. Perez had noted in her most recent blood work, Operation Neptune's. Deep. Sam spread the declassified files across the table. 1993. A joint Navy-DARPA mission investigating unidentified biosonar signals in the Marianas Trench. Your uncle was the lead marine biologist. Dr. Rivera nodded grimly. I was his research assistant back then, fresh out of graduate school. The photographs showed a specialized research vessel equipped with deep-sea submersibles. One image captured a younger Edward Blackwell alongside naval officers, examining sonar readings of something massive moving at impossible depths. The official record states they collected unusual biological samples, Sam continued. What it doesn't mention is that they found an intelligent aquatic species unknown to science. A specimen was recovered during the final dive, Dr. Rivera added. Your uncle insisted on bringing it to the surface himself. The Navy wanted it transported to a secure facility in Nevada for study, but it never arrived, Ellie guessed. Edward diverted the transport vehicle, Sam confirmed. By the time authorities realized what happened, he'd already established sanctuary for it here. He leveraged classified knowledge as insurance against interference. Blackmail? Ellie asked, struggling to reconcile this image with her eccentric but principled uncle. Protection, Rivera corrected. He discovered the being was healing critically injured members of the dive team. Edward believed it came willingly to help humans, not to be dissected in a government lab. The military files detailed the operation with clinical detachment. Specimen demonstrates unprecedented regenerative capabilities. Tissue samples exhibit rapid cellular reconstruction and potential medical applications, including neural regeneration. The government reluctantly agreed to Edward's arrangement, Sam explained. He would study the being's healing properties and share his research, but it would remain under his protection. That's where I came in, officially monitoring the situation, unofficially helping maintain the secrecy. What changed? Ellie asked. Why is Shaw suddenly so interested? Rivera and Sam exchanged uneasy glances. Edward discovered something revolutionary shortly before his death, Rivera admitted. Compounds in the water that could potentially cure degenerative diseases. He shared early findings with me, swearing me to secrecy while he verified the results. But you didn't keep that secret, Ellie realized. Remembering Rivera's earlier nervousness and the water samples she'd seen him collecting. I consulted with Shaw Pharmaceuticals, he admitted. Strictly theoretical discussions. I never revealed the source. Yet Shaw connected it to this facility anyway, Sam said accusingly. Because someone else is feeding them information, Rivera insisted defensively. Someone with direct knowledge of the being's capabilities. The implications hung heavily between them. A traitor within the small circle who knew the truth. There's more, Sam said quietly. Your grandmother didn't die from cancer as your family believes. She was terminal when Edward first brought the being here. She was the first human completely healed by extended exposure to its presence. The revelation struck Ellie like a physical blow. Her grandmother had lived well into her 90s, vibrant and healthy until a peaceful passing in her sleep. That's why he chose you as his successor, Rivera observed. You share DNA with the first human the being fully healed. Your grandmother's recovery created a genetic connection that's passed to you and to your unborn child. The creature told me we were connected, Ellie said. It literally spelled out the words. Neither man seemed surprised by its communication abilities. Edward documented increasing intelligence and language acquisition, Rivera explained. It absorbs information at an extraordinary rate. The bioluminescent communication began after its second year here. As night fell, Ellie returned to the central tank alone, processing the overwhelming revelations. The creature emerged immediately, its patterns unusually vibrant. "My grandmother," she said simply. "You healed her." The being's lights formed clear confirmation. "FIRSTBOND, and now you're helping me and my baby. Because of that bond. CHOSENFAMILY. The unexpected phrase brought tears to her eyes. "Why did you come with my uncle? Why stay all these years?" The creature paused, seeming to consider how to express complex concepts with limited symbols. Finally it formed HEALTEACHLEARN. Later that night, Ellie reviewed security footage, seeking anything that might reveal who was passing information to shore. The recordings showed something unexpected. Dr. Rivera accessing the central tank after hours, collecting water samples while speaking into a recorder. The subject's metabolic responses to the new enzyme mixture show promising development. Compound extraction efficiency improved by 37%. More troubling was footage from just 2 days earlier. While Ellie slept, a figure entered using Sam's security credentials. The shadowy form moved directly to her uncle's research files. Photographing pages with methodical precision, she couldn't clearly identify the intruder, but their familiarity with the security system and research materials narrowed the possibilities dramatically. Either Rivera or Sam, or perhaps both, were playing a double game. The creature sensed her distress, its bioluminescence forming a warning pattern visible from her office. When she approached, it spelled out DANGERCLOSE. "Who can I trust?" she asked it. The being's response was simple but chilling, NOONE. As if confirming its warning, her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "Shore Pharmaceuticals board meeting tomorrow. Topic: acquisition of Mariners Cove property by any means necessary. Approval for increased offer, $10 million. Alternate strategies authorized if rejected." The message came with an attachment, a confidential medical report showing her latest test results, documents that should have been private between her and Dr. Perez. Even her medical information had been compromised. The circle of people she could trust was rapidly shrinking to just one, the mysterious being that called her family. Dr. Perez beamed at the ultrasound monitor. "This is remarkable, Ellie. I've never seen such dramatic improvement in placental function. The baby's growth has accelerated to completely normal parameters." Ellie watched her child's profile on the screen, heart swelling with relief and wonder. Just weeks ago, they'd discussed emergency delivery options due to her deteriorating condition. What changed? Dr. Perez asked, reviewing the before and after test results with professional amazement. "Your blood work shows cellular regeneration rates I've never encountered." "Clean living," Ellie deflected. "Ocean air. Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Dr. Perez printed the sonogram images. "I'd love to publish a case study on your recovery. It's genuinely unprecedented." As Ellie left the clinic, Mayor Whitcomb intercepted her in the parking lot, his political smile firmly in place. "Ms. Mason, I'm glad I caught you. Might we have a word?" They sat at a nearby bench, the mayor maintaining a facade of civic concern. "The town council has authorized me to discuss the aquarium situation frankly," he began. "We're prepared to invoke eminent domain if necessary." "On what grounds?" "Public interest." "Historical significance." "Take your pick." His smile thinned. "The point is, fighting it would be costly and ultimately futile. However, we're prepared to offer fair market value as compensation, and Shore Pharmaceuticals would happen to purchase the property afterward." Ellie asked. The mayor's expression tightened. "Their research facility would bring jobs and tax revenue to Port Harbor. Progress requires difficult decisions. My uncle maintained that property for decades, without issues. Why the sudden urgency?" Whitcomb leaned closer. "Between us, Donovan Shore has invested considerably in local infrastructure improvements. Certain council members' campaigns have benefited from his generosity. Promises were made." "You're admitting to corruption." "I'm explaining political reality." His tone hardened. Shaw gets what he wants, one way or another. The smart play is to take the money while it's offered. After he left, Ellie called Sam, explaining the mayor's threat. Eminent domain requires public hearings, environmental impact studies, Sam reassured her. We have time. My agency contacts can help delay the process. Back at the aquarium, Ellie found Dr. Rivera studying water samples from the central tank, his expression troubled. The composition is changing, he reported, showing her molecular structure diagrams. New compounds appearing daily. Edward never documented anything like this. Ellie approached the tank, where the creature now moved with greater confidence, its tissues more defined, bioluminescence more vivid. It responded immediately to her presence, forming patterns that had become their regular greeting. It's evolving, she said. Adapting. That's what concerns me, Rivera admitted. The changes accelerated after you arrived. It's responding to you specifically. Later, reviewing her uncle's most recent journal entries, Ellie found references to potential symbiosis and directed evolution. One passage stood out. The being appears capable of biochemical responses tailored to individual human needs. This may explain why conventional medicine failed to replicate its healing effects. Each response is unique to the recipient's specific requirements. That evening, while monitoring the creature's activities, Ellie noticed its behavior change when her baby moved particularly forcefully. The being approached the glass, its bioluminescence concentrated in patterns that pulsed in perfect synchronization with her baby's movements. You can sense the baby, she realized aloud. The creature confirmed, FEELNEWLIFE. Is that why you're helping me? Because of the baby? NEXTGUARDIAN. The implications of those simple words staggered her. Before she could ask more, Sam burst into the room, his expression grave. Security breach. Someone's copied your uncle's complete research database to an external drive. The backup server recorded the transfer an hour ago. They reviewed the security footage together, catching only glimpses of a figure in a hooded jacket, face carefully turned away from cameras. Professional, Sam noted grimly. They knew exactly where the blind spots were. How many people have that knowledge? Ellie asked pointedly. Too many, he admitted. Your uncle, me, Rivera, and at least 2 government technicians who helped install the system. That night, unable to sleep, Ellie was drawn to the central tank, where the creature's bioluminescence had taken on a new golden hue. The water itself seemed to shimmer with microscopic particles that hadn't been present before. On impulse, she collected a sample for testing. Under her uncle's microscope, she observed cellular structures in constant flux, reorganizing into increasingly complex patterns, evolution happening in real time. Her phone rang, Dr. Perez calling despite the late hour. Ellie, I need you to come in immediately, her voice tight with urgency. Your latest blood work shows anomalies I've never seen before. Cellular structures that don't match any known human pattern. What does that mean? I don't know, Dr. Perez admitted. But whatever's happening is affecting both you and the baby. I've contacted specialists at University Hospital. After ending the call, Ellie returned to the central tank. The creature approached, forming words with deliberate precision. CHANGEBEGINS. What change? She demanded, sudden fear gripping her. What are you doing to my baby? The being's response was cryptic. EVOLUTIONNEEDSCATALYST. On the main monitoring console, sensors detected unusual activity in the underwater tunnel system. Sonar imagery showed the tunnels pulsing with the same golden bioluminescence now present in the central tank, the glow spreading through the underground water sources beneath the town. Whatever was happening wasn't contained to the aquarium anymore. It was expanding, reaching outward through the water, itself carrying unknown changes. To anyone who came in contact with it, the hidden compartment, beneath the office floorboards, contained a single item, a waterproof tablet computer with a biometric lock calibrated to Edward's DNA. When Ellie's frustrated attempts to access it repeatedly failed. The device surprisingly recalibrated with a message, genetic match 48.7%, secondary authorization accepted. The screen flickered to life, revealing a video recording of her uncle, visibly aged and gaunt, but with eyes still sharp with intelligence. The timestamp showed it was recorded just 3 weeks before his death. "Ellie," he began, voice raspy, "if you're watching this, I'm gone, and you've inherited my greatest discovery and my heaviest burden. There's so much I should have told you in person, but secrecy became my prison as much as my protection." Edward's confession unfolded in measured words. The being hadn't been captured during Operation Neptune's Deep. It had approached the submersible deliberately, wrapping itself around the vessel's failing life support systems after an equipment malfunction threatened the crew. "It saved us," Edward explained, then willingly followed us to the surface. The military called it a specimen. I recognized it as a sentient refugee offering itself in exchange for sanctuary. The government had wanted to transport it to a classified facility for study, particularly interested in its remarkable healing abilities and apparent intelligence. Edward, recognizing a conscious entity rather than a test subject, had diverted the transport vehicle and established the Aquarium as a compromise solution. "I needed leverage to protect it," he explained. "So I kept certain research findings to myself, particularly its ability to selectively offer healing abilities. It's not a passive process, Ellie. The being chooses who receives its gift." Most shocking was his revelation about the tunnels connecting to the ocean. It can leave any time. The tunnels were its condition for staying, freedom of movement and the option to return to deep water. It remains by choice, offering healing to those it deems worthy, while I study its extraordinary biology." Edward's expression grew troubled. "What began as protection became something more complex. I was dying when we first met. Late-stage pancreatic cancer the doctors had given 3 months to treat. The being healed me completely, extending my life by decades. Your grandmother was next. Then selected patients I brought for experimental treatments." The record continued with technical details about the creature's abilities, how it produced enzymes that could repair cellular damage, regenerate neural pathways, even reverse genetic disorders. But the healing came with a price. Extended exposure creates a biological dependency, Edward admitted. Those of us healed must remain in regular contact with its presence, or the benefits gradually reverse. That's why I never left this place for long. That's why your grandmother visited weekly until her death, not from the original cancer, but from natural causes at an advanced age. The final revelation struck Ellie like a physical blow. The being isn't a prisoner, Ellie. It's a voluntary exile. It told me it was sent away from its kind because of its insistence on helping humans, a violation of their ancient laws of non-interference. It's alone, the last of its ambassadors to humanity. Edward's eyes filled with tears. It chose to stay because it believes in our potential despite our flaws. It's been waiting for the right moment, the right catalyst, to expand its gifts beyond individuals to humanity more broadly. I believe that catalyst is you, Ellie, and your child. The video ended with a solemn warning. Corporate and government interests will stop at nothing to control the being once they understand its true capabilities. Trust only those who demonstrate they value its autonomy above its utility. The water holds the key to everything. Ellie sat in stunned silence, processing revelations that reframed everything she understood about her inheritance. Her uncle hadn't captured an alien creature. He'd provided sanctuary to a benevolent exile who chose to help humanity, despite being rejected by its own kind. When she finally approached the central tank, the creature was waiting, its bioluminescence forming patterns of unusual complexity. For the first time, rather than simple words, it created flowing symbols that triggered an unexpected response in Ellie's mind, concepts and images that transcended language she understood. Without knowing how, the being was communicating directly to her consciousness, bypassing the limitations of spelled words. The connection felt both alien and strangely familiar, like remembering something she'd always known but temporarily forgotten. "You've been changing me," she said aloud. "Preparing me." The creature's response came as an impression rather than words, completion of what began with your grandmother. 3 generations to establish the bond. For what purpose? To bridge worlds. To heal the divide. To prepare for what comes. The sonar monitoring system beeped urgently, showing multiple objects approaching through the deep water tunnels. Similar beings, smaller but with identical bioluminescent signatures. Not exiled after all, Ellie realized. A pioneer, sent ahead to prepare the way. The golden glow in the tank intensified as the creature conveyed its final revelation. The child you carry will be the first of a new kind, neither fully human nor fully of my species. A true bridge between worlds. Dr. Rivera's hands trembled as he set down the research documents. "I've made a terrible mistake, Ellie." They sat in her uncle's office, the first golden light of dawn filtering through salt-crusted windows. Rivera looked haggard, as though he hadn't slept in days. "I told myself it was for the greater good," he continued. "That sharing selective research with Shaw Pharmaceuticals would help develop treatments for thousands of patients." "You betrayed my uncle's trust," Ellie said, anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. "I did. No denial, no justification. But I didn't understand the full implications until yesterday." He placed a USB drive on the desk. "Shaw's research team has synthesized compounds based on my samples. They've created a partial replica of the healing properties. That should be good news. It's not." Rivera pulled up chemical analysis charts on his laptop. "The synthetic version works. It accelerates healing, regenerates damaged tissue, even addresses genetic disorders. But it creates immediate biological dependency. Worse, it causes cumulative organ stress with each dose. The data showed alarming patterns. Test subjects experiencing miraculous recovery, followed by rapid deterioration when the treatment stopped. In essence, they've created an addictive wonder drug," Rivera explained. "One dose commits the patient to lifetime treatment, with escalating side effects that eventually cause system failure." And Shaw knows this? "He sees it as a sustainable business model. Patients would pay anything for a cure, then remain paying customers indefinitely to stay alive." Rivera's disgust was palpable. "When I objected, I was removed from the research team, but not before I downloaded their complete findings. The USB contained thousands of documents, including marketing strategies for the synthetic compound, already branded as Vitanovo, with projected annual revenue of billions." "There's more," Rivera said quietly. "Shaw doesn't just want the aquarium for research access. He's discovered the being can control which properties its enzymes express. It can heal selectively, cardiac tissue for one patient, neural pathways for another. The synthetic version can't differentiate, so Shaw needs the original source." "Exactly. And he's already using you as a test case." Rivera pulled up medical records, her own, stolen from Dr. Perez's office. "The prenatal vitamins you received from that new women's health clinic in town?" "Coastal Maternal Care," Ellie confirmed. "They offered free services for low-income expectant mothers. A Shaw Pharmaceuticals subsidiary established 18 months ago specifically to monitor this area." Rivera highlighted chemical markers in her blood work. "They've been dosing you with experimental compounds designed to simulate pregnancy complications, then tracking your recovery patterns each time you return to the aquarium." Horror washed over her as the implications became clear. "They made me sick to test the creature's response. Your condition was their control experiment. They needed to confirm the healing properties transmitted through water contact and measure your dependency cycle." Rivera's expression was grim. "Your preeclampsia symptoms were induced, then alleviated by your proximity to the being, creating a documented cycle they could study." Rage displaced Ellie's shock. Shaw hadn't just threatened her property, he'd endangered her baby's life for research data. Why are you telling me this now? Because the final stage of Shaw's plan is underway, Rivera said. The company has obtained preliminary permits to build a research facility adjacent to this property. Once construction begins, they'll have legal access to the underwater geology, including the tunnel system. Sam's government connections can block. Sam works for Shaw, Rivera interrupted. Has for years. Your uncle suspected but could never prove it. The betrayal struck deeper than Ellie expected. Sam had been her ally, her protector in the weeks since inheriting the aquarium. That's why security breaches happened despite his protection, Rivera explained. He's been gathering intelligence for Shaw while posing as your guardian. The real EPA connection was terminated years ago when Edward refused expanded government research access. Rivera's revelation explained inconsistencies she'd noticed. Hem's convenient appearances during crises, his extensive knowledge of systems that should have been classified, his careful management of her questions. The golden water, Ellie said suddenly. The creature's changing the composition. What does it mean? Edward's final research suggests it's preparing for reproduction or metamorphosis. Rivera studied the latest tank readings. The energy signatures have increased exponentially in the past week. Whatever's happening is accelerating. When Ellie returned to the central tank, the creature's golden luminescence had intensified. The being approached with new urgency, communicating directly to her mind. They come to take, not to learn. The cycle repeats. What cycle? She asked aloud. Images flooded her consciousness, previous encounters with humans throughout millennia. First contact, trust, betrayal, retreat to the depths. Generation after generation, but this time is different, the creature conveyed. You are different. The child is different because of my grandmother's healing, because of choice. 3 generations of genetic adaptation, willing symbiosis. The sonar system beeped again. The approaching entities from the deep tunnels had accelerated, now just hours away. Simultaneously, security cameras showed vehicles with Shaw Pharmaceuticals logos entering the town. A convoy of equipment and personnel establishing a staging area at the harbor. 2 forces converging on the aquarium from opposite directions. One from the depths, one from the surface. And Ellie carrying a child that somehow connected them both. Caught in the middle of a confrontation, generations in the making. The legal notice arrived by courier, stark black text on official letterhead, stating that the Port Harbor Town Council had unanimously approved eminent domain proceedings against Mariners Cove Aquarium, citing critical infrastructure needs and public health considerations. They're moving faster than should be legally possible, Eleanor Whitefeather observed, studying the document. The tribal elder had arrived unannounced that morning, drawn by what she called disturbances in the deep patterns. Mayor Whitcomb has the council in his pocket, Ellie said. And Shaw has Whitcomb in his. Money speaks loudly in small towns, Eleanor agreed. But older voices can speak louder. Together, they reviewed engineering schematics of Port Harbor's water system that Ellie had discovered in her uncle's files. The documents revealed what the town had forgotten. Mariners Cove sat atop the primary aquifer, feeding the town's wells. The natural spring beneath the aquarium supplied the entire region's groundwater. The Guardian's influence has always reached beyond these walls, Eleanor said. For generations, our people experienced fewer illnesses, faster recovery, longer lives. We attributed it to clean living and traditional ways. Your uncle understood the true source. The implications were staggering. The entire town had been receiving diluted benefits from the creature's presence for decades through their water supply. No wonder Shaw wanted control of the property. It wasn't just the being itself, but its integration with local hydrology that made the location invaluable. That's why the creature is creating tunnels. Throughout the water table, Ellie realized, it's been gradually expanding its reach. Preparing, Eleanor corrected, for what comes next. Sam arrived midday, maintaining his cover despite Rivera's warning. His concerned expression seemed genuine as he examined the legal notice. "This bypasses normal procedures," he said. "Someone's pulling serious strings. I'm counting on your government connections to help fight this," Ellie replied, watching his reaction carefully. "I've already made calls," he assured her smoothly. "But these things take time they didn't have." According to the notice, preliminary property assessment would begin tomorrow, with formal seizure scheduled within 5 business days. After Sam left, Rivera emerged from the research lab where he'd been hiding. "He's reporting directly to shore," he confirmed, showing Ellie a tracked signal from Sam's phone. He contacted them immediately after seeing the notice. "We need allies," Ellie decided. By evening, the aquarium's main hall had become an impromptu community meeting space. Eleanor had summoned elders from her tribe, while Ellie had reached out to longtime town residents who had benefited from the aquarium's therapeutic sessions in earlier years. Dr. Perez arrived as well, bringing medical records documenting inexplicable recoveries among Port Harbor residents compared to neighboring communities, statistical anomalies she'd noticed, but never understood until now. "Our cancer remission rates are 43% higher than the national average," she explained to the assembled group. "Autoimmune disorders occur at 1/3 the expected frequency. I always attributed it to clean living, low pollution, good genes. It's the water," an elderly fisherman named Henry confirmed. "My father told me his father told him, never leave Port Harbor for long if you want to stay healthy. I thought it was superstition until my rheumatism came roaring back during my 2 years working in Seattle." Similar stories emerged throughout the evening, generations of local knowledge about the healing properties of their home, all connected to proximity to the aquarium and its water sources. "Shaw Pharmaceuticals isn't just after the creature," Ellie explained. "They want to control the entire aquifer. Their permit applications show plans for a massive extraction facility disguised as a research center. They'll bottle our blessing and sell it back to us," Eleanor added, her weathered face solemn. As the meeting progressed, unusual reports began filtering in from around town. The harbor water was showing traces of golden bioluminescence after dark. House pets were behaving strangely, drawn to water sources. Most tellingly, patients at the local clinic were experiencing sudden improvements in chronic conditions, the creature's influence strengthening throughout the water system. While the community meeting continued, Ellie slipped away to the central tank. The being's golden luminescence had intensified, pulses of light synchronizing with the movements of her unborn child. "They fear what they cannot control." The creature communicated directly to her mind. "They will destroy what they cannot own." "I won't let them take you," Ellie promised. "The choice was never theirs to make. The choice is yours." "What choice?" "To complete the bond, to become the bridge. The others approach to witness, not to stay. The transformation requires your consent." Before she could question further, Rivera burst in, face pale with urgency. "Shaw's security team has entered town, a full tactical unit under the guise of environmental specialists. They've established checkpoints on all roads leading to the aquarium." Simultaneously, the sonar system showed the approaching entities had reached the outer tunnel network. Whatever convergence was coming would happen within hours, not days. Through the windows, Ellie could see vehicles with government markings joining the Shaw Pharmaceuticals convoy, her uncle's arrangement with authorities evidently terminated. The power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. "They're coming at dawn," Rivera said. "From what I overheard, they have authorization to seize the specimen under national security provisions." The creature's response flowed into Ellie's consciousness. Dawn brings change, regardless of their actions. The water holds the key to everything, your uncle's final truth. Midnight cast long shadows through the aquarium as Eleanor prepared the ancient protection ceremony. She moved with practiced reverence, arranging sacred objects in a circle around the central tank, abalone shells containing smoldering herbs, carved stone figures representing ocean guardians, strands of woven cedar bark forming intricate patterns on the floor. This ritual dates back centuries, she explained, her weathered hands steady despite her age, when our ancestors needed to shield sacred waters from those who would defile them. The gathered townspeople watched in respectful silence as Eleanor began to sing in her tribal language, voice rising and falling like waves against shore. The melody seemed to resonate with the tank glass, vibrations rippling across the water's surface. To everyone's astonishment, the creature responded, its golden luminescence pulsing in perfect synchronization with Eleanor's song, forming patterns that matched the cedar bark designs on the floor. "It knows the ritual," Eleanor whispered, awestruck. "It remembers." As the ceremony continued, those assembled shared their own stories of healing, the fisherman's inexplicable recovery from a near-fatal boating accident, Dr. Perez's son overcoming a rare immune disorder, the librarian's sister whose terminal cancer had mysteriously vanished after moving to Port Harbor. Each testimony strengthened their resolve to protect the source of their community's unusual blessings. Outside, rain began to fall, gentle at first, then strengthening into a steady downpour that washed the golden particles from the harbor throughout the town's waterways. Reports arrived via text and phone calls. The bioluminescence was spreading, appearing in home faucets, garden puddles, even morning dew on grass and leaves. From his position, monitoring Shaw's security team, Rivera reported back, "They've established a perimeter half a mile out. Approximately 20 personnel with specialized containment equipment. They're bringing in a mobile laboratory and transport tank at dawn." "And Sam?" Ellie asked, coordinating with them. "He's their inside man, providing facility schematics and security protocols." The betrayal still stung despite Rivera's warning. Sam had been her most trusted ally since inheriting the Aquarium. His duplicity felt personal in ways that transcended the practical threat he posed. As the night deepened, Ellie retreated to the tank room alone, drawn by an increasingly powerful connection to the being within. Its luminescence had intensified to near-blinding levels, casting the entire chamber in golden light. "What comes must be chosen freely," it communicated. "The transformation offers both gift and burden." "You keep mentioning transformation," Ellie said. "What exactly will happen?" Images flowed into her consciousness, evolutionary leaps throughout Earth's history, single cells becoming complex organisms, sea creatures venturing onto land, consciousness emerging from base instinct. "The next step requires bridge beings," the creature explained. "Neither fully human nor fully of the deep. Your child carries potential for both worlds. You've been changing my baby's DNA," Ellie realized, protective instinct flaring, completing what began with your grandmother. 3 generations to establish genetic compatibility. Your family line was chosen for its receptivity to harmonious merger. And if I refuse this merger, then we retreat to the depths once more. The cycle of approach and withdrawal continues. Humanity remains isolated, developing on its separate path. The sonar system beeped urgently. The entities from the deep tunnels had reached the outer chamber beneath the aquarium. Simultaneously, surveillance cameras showed Shaw's convoy advancing despite the storm. Specialized vehicles pushing through flooded roads with determined precision. Dawn was approaching. Forces converging from above and below. Eleanor joined Ellie by the tank, her ceremonial garments still fragrant with sacred herbs. The water throughout town glows golden now. People report strange dreams, shared visions of oceanic depths and beings of light. "It's preparing everyone," Ellie said. "Not just me. The Guardian has always influenced this place," Eleanor agreed. "But never so openly. Something fundamental is changing." Dr. Perez arrived next, medical bag in hand, expression troubled. "Ellie, I've been monitoring your blood work. The cellular changes are accelerating. Whatever's happening between you and this creature," she gestured helplessly at the glowing tank, "it's rewriting basic human genetics. I don't know if that's dangerous or miraculous, both." "Probably," Ellie said, feeling her child move within her. Stronger, more purposeful movements than before. Rivera burst in, breathless from running. They've breached the outer perimeter. Shaw himself is with them, and government officials I don't recognize. They have some kind of court order authorizing immediate seizure. As if responding to the threat, the tank water began to move in unnatural patterns, swirling counterclockwise with increasing speed while maintaining its golden luminescence. The being at the center remained perfectly still, its attention focused entirely on Ellie. "The time comes," it communicated. "Your answer determines the outcome for both our kinds." Pressure built within Ellie's mind as the creature's presence expanded, offering glimpses of possibilities, humanity's potential evolution with guidance from beings that had developed consciousness millions of years earlier. Symbiotic advancement instead of isolated struggle. "What exactly are you asking of me?" she demanded, hands protectively cradling her belly, "To allow completion of what began generations ago. To birth a child who bridges worlds. To become yourself transformed through willing union. The first true communion between surface and depths since Earth's earliest days." Outside, vehicles screeched to a halt. Radio communications crackled as teams coordinated their approach. Time had run out. The creature's final message came with gentle clarity. "Choose now, for yourself, your child, and all that follows." The first contraction caught Ellie by surprise, a sharp, insistent pressure that forced her to grip the tank's edge for support. Her due date was still weeks away. "The baby's coming," she gasped as Eleanor rushed to her side. "Not coincidence," the elder murmured. "The Guardian has chosen this moment." Outside, floodlights cut through pre-dawn darkness as Shaw's team established a perimeter around the aquarium. Through security monitors, Ellie watched them deploy with military precision, technicians with specialized equipment, security personnel with weapons discreetly holstered. And at their center, Donovan Shaw himself, immaculate despite the storm, directing operations with cold efficiency. Sam appeared on the monitor, approaching the main entrance where Rivera had established makeshift barricades. The two men spoke briefly before Sam used his access card, still active in the security system, to override the locks. The exterior doors slid open. "They're inside," Dr. Perez reported, rushing to Ellie's side with medical supplies. "Your contractions are 5 minutes apart. This labor is progressing rapidly." Another contraction gripped Ellie, stronger than the first. Through the pain, she maintained her connection with the creature, whose luminescence had reached blinding intensity, the golden light filling the chamber and spilling into adjacent corridors. "I have chosen," she projected mentally toward the being, "for my child, for the future. What must I do?" The response came not in words or images, but in pure understanding. She needed to immerse herself in the tank water. Complete physical contact was necessary for the transformation. "She needs to enter the water," Eleanor translated, somehow sensing their exchange. "The Guardian requires direct connection." Dr. Perez's medical training rebelled. "She's in active labor." Immersion could endanger both mother and child, more dangerous than what waits outside. Rivera countered, gesturing toward the monitors, showing Shaw's team methodically advancing through the building, Sam leading them directly toward the central chamber. Another contraction doubled Ellie over, her waters breaking in a rush that mingled with the spreading puddles of golden-tinged liquid now seeping under doors and through air vents. The tank was overflowing, water moving against gravity and natural flow. "Help me!" she gasped, reaching toward the tank. The decision was made. Eleanor and Rivera supported her while Dr. Perez continued protesting, though she followed with her medical bag. They helped Ellie to the maintenance platform that extended over the massive tank, designed for feeding and testing. The creature rose to the surface, its luminescence forming a perfect circle beneath Ellie. An invitation, a cradle of light waiting to receive her. Distantly she heard shouting. Shaw's team had reached the outer corridor, Sam's voice audible as he directed them toward the central chamber. "Containment protocols ready. The specimen is in the main tank." "Now!" Eleanor urged. Ellie slipped into the warm golden water. The sensation defied description. neither burning nor freezing, but a fundamental reorganization of every cell in her body. The creature enveloped her in luminous tendrils, forming a protective cocoon that suspended her weightlessly. Another contraction came, but the pain transformed into something else, intense pressure and purpose without suffering. Through the tank glass, the world outside became a tableau of frozen motion. Shaw burst into the chamber with Sam and armed personnel, their expressions shifting from determination to astonishment as they beheld the scene before them. Ellie suspended in golden light, the creature wrapped protectively around her, the water itself seeming to pulse with conscious intent. "Stop!" Shaw commanded, but his security team hesitated, weapons raised but unfired. Even they recognized the moment transcended their authority. Simultaneously, the floor trembled as the entities from the deep tunnels finally arrived, smaller versions of the Guardian, their luminescence silver rather than gold, emerging from pools forming in the chamber floor, defying physical barriers as they joined the convergence. Sam approached the tank, expression conflicted. "Ellie, don't do this. We don't understand what it's planning." "But I do," she replied, her voice somehow carrying through glass and water with perfect clarity. "Better than any of you." Shaw pushed forward, his practiced corporate mask slipping to reveal naked ambition. "That specimen is property of the United States government, transferred under Project Neptune's Deep. Its extraction is authorized under National Security Directive." "It never belonged to anyone," Ellie interrupted, another contraction building. "And neither will my child." The golden water surged around her as the final stage of labor began, the creature's luminescence intensifying until Shaw's team shielded their eyes. Dr. Perez, Eleanor, and Rivera stood their ground, witnesses to something beyond scientific or spiritual understanding, the birth of something unprecedented. Through it all, Ellie remained conscious and aware, experiencing pain transformed into power, limitation becoming transcendence. The creature's consciousness merged partially with hers, sharing ancient knowledge as her body worked to bring new life into the world. "It's happening," Eleanor whispered. Within the glowing cocoon, Ellie pushed one final time, feeling her child emerge into waiting tendrils of light that cradled the newborn with infinite gentleness. The baby girl's first cry echoed through the chamber, but the sound carried unusual harmonics that resonated with the tank glass, with the water itself, with the very molecules of air, a voice simultaneously human and something more. When the infant opened her eyes for the first time, they shimmered with the same golden luminescence as the Guardian. The golden water receded, carrying Ellie and her newborn daughter gently to the edge of the tank, where Dr. Perez waited with medical blankets. As they emerged, the transformation became visible to all. Ellie's skin bore subtle, luminescent patterns like delicate filigree beneath the surface, while the infant's eyes continued to shimmer with golden light, her tiny fingers trailing phosphorescence when she moved. Shaw stepped forward, momentarily speechless before his calculating mind reasserted control. Extraordinary. The biological implications alone. "Stop right there." The command came from the entrance, where federal agents in distinctive dark suits pushed past Shaw's security team, their credentials unmistakably authentic. "Federal Bureau of Investigation. This facility is now under government protection." The lead agent nodded respectfully to Eleanor before addressing the room. "The tribal nation has filed an emergency claim under the Native American Religious Freedom Act, identifying this site as sacred waters central to their spiritual practices. Additionally, we have evidence of illegal medical experimentation conducted by Shaw Pharmaceuticals on unwitting subjects in this community." Sam's expression crumbled as agents moved to detain him alongside Shaw. "Ellie, I was trying to protect you, control the situation, by betraying everything my uncle stood for." Her voice carried new authority, resonant with harmonics that commanded attention. "By endangering my child." Shaw maintained his corporate composure even in handcuffs. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. The medical applications alone could save millions, at the cost of their freedom, Ellie countered. Creating addiction and dependency for profit. The FBI agents secured the chamber while medical personnel attended to mother and child. Initial readings showed both with extraordinary vital signs. Perfect health paired with biological markers never before documented in medical literature. Through it all, the Guardian remained in the tank, its golden luminescence maintaining steady communication with Ellie and the newborn. The smaller entities from the tunnels had stationed themselves around the chamber, their silver light creating a protective perimeter. Their sentinels, Eleanor explained, somehow understanding their purpose, ensuring the safe transition. As dawn broke, sunlight filtering through the aquarium's skylights, Ellie cradled her daughter, physically human, yet undeniably more. The infant's awareness seemed impossible for a newborn, her gaze tracking movements with conscious intelligence, her tiny hand reaching deliberately toward the tank where the Guardian remained. "She knows," Ellie whispered. "She understands already." The FBI's lead investigator approached cautiously. "Ms. Mason, we have orders to establish a scientific observation team. The government has questions about what's happened here." "I imagine they do," Ellie smiled. "But observation is all they'll be permitted. No tests, no samples, no interference. You don't exactly have the authority, but they do." Ellie nodded toward the Guardian and its sentinels. "And now, so do I." She rose with unexpected strength for someone who had just given birth, approaching the tank with her daughter. The Guardian pressed against the glass, its luminescence synchronizing perfectly with the patterns beneath Ellie's skin and the shimmer in her daughter's eyes. In that moment of connection, understanding flowed between all present, not through words, but through direct consciousness. The Guardian revealed its true purpose, not merely healing individuals, but preparing humanity for expanded awareness, for connection with intelligences beyond their current understanding. Ellie and her child were the first successful bridge, the culmination of generations of careful preparation. 6 months later, Mariner's Cove had transformed. The dilapidated aquarium had been rebuilt as a research and healing center, its architecture integrating seamlessly with the natural coastline. Under Eleanor's guidance and tribal protection, with Ellie and her daughter as intermediaries, the facility welcomed carefully selected patients with conditions modern medicine couldn't address. The Guardian remained voluntarily. Its presence expanded throughout the facility's redesigned water systems. The Sentinels had returned to the deep, their mission complete for now, though they maintained connection through the tunnel network that had been formally protected under new environmental regulations. Dr. Rivera had been appointed lead researcher, his earlier betrayal forgiven as he dedicated himself to ethical documentation of the healing processes. Dr. Perez headed the medical team, her conventional training balanced with newfound respect for capabilities beyond scientific understanding. The government maintained a discreet monitoring presence, but direct intervention had proven impossible. The beings controlled access to their gifts, offering healing only to those who approached with respect rather than exploitation. Sure, pharmaceutical synthetic compounds had been exposed and banned, their corporate leadership facing criminal charges for illegal experimentation. Ellie walked along the shore, her daughter, named Marina in honor of both the sea and her great-uncle's legacy, cradled against her chest. The infant's golden eyes watched the waves with ancient understanding despite her young age. "Your great-uncle would be proud," Rivera said, joining them on their daily sunset walk. "He always believed contact could benefit both species if approached with the right intention," Ellie nodded, feeling the Guardian's presence in her mind, a connection that had remained since the birth. Distance no longer a limitation to their communication. "This is just the beginning," she said, looking down at Marina's luminescent eyes. The first bridge between worlds. In the harbor waters, a subtle golden glow appeared as the sun dipped below the horizon. the guardian extending its consciousness beyond physical limitations, preparing for what would come next. Not invasion or domination, but invitation to evolution through willing partnership. Marina's tiny hand reached toward the ocean, trailing phosphorescence that matched the harbor's glow. A child of two worlds. First of her kind, but not, Ellie knew with certainty, the last.